I'm just very well pleased. Look at this, right off the side of that grow bag. That is a wonderful handful. Throughout our property, we've placed a half a dozen grow bags. And in these grow bags, we planted some of the oldest fingerling potatoes we've ever seen. Now these are fingerling potatoes that we harvested last season, and before we planted them, the sprouts had gotten to well over a foot. So this video seeks to answer the question, what happens when you plant really old fingerling potatoes? We started this video several months ago with the planting of our old fingerlings in these grow bags. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of that process, and then we're going to harvest and see just exactly what we got from these containers. It's July 11th, and here we are with our first layer of these fingerling potatoes, and you can see the length of the sprouts on these. So we're trying to determine how well these really old fingerling potatoes are going to perform. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our potato mix fertilizer, and so that is some bone meal, we have some mycorrhizal and some all-purpose organic fertilizer, and some langbionite. So we're giving a really nice mixture here, and we're focusing heavily on the P and the K as a part of the NPK. Now once we've added the fertilizer, we're going to cover it up with about 1 inch of this soilless potting mix. We don't want to cover it up too deeply. We've just got to get the sprouting starting to happen out of the top of these. So we'll start to see that green show up here, I think, very shortly. Now what you're seeing in front of you are the remains of our massive fingerling potato harvest from last year. We've actually trimmed back the sprouts. These were also about 10 to 12 inches long, but we trimmed them back, and we're putting these into single layer pots right now, in addition to what we're planting in these grow bags. Now the reason why we're starting them in these pots is because then we're going to get some green growth happening, and they're going to be developing while that first layer is also growing in our grow bags. Because we know one of the challenges of planting in a double layer is that you would have uneven growth, because you'd have to wait for the first layer to come up and sprout, and then you'd plant the second layer. But in this case, we have them both growing at the same time, so when it's time to add that second layer, well, we've already got great growth on both sides, so they're at the same development point. And the other thing is, these are really old fingerling potatoes, so it's possible that some of these won't sprout at all, that they'll just fail, and so we'll be able to determine that before we do the transplanting. Now you can see the lip on these grow bags is actually turned down about 3 to 4 inches. That means we have tons of growing height that we can try to take advantage of. And we definitely do want to take advantage of all of that height. That's why we're trying layering. That and the fact that, again, these are old fingerling potatoes, which means they may not be as vigorous growers. So whatever we can do to try to increase yield, that's what we'll do. It is July 25th, and you can see just 2 weeks later we have some great green growth coming in our grow bags. And it's really cool to see. I mean, there are clearly some of these plants that are more vigorous growers than others. And they're definitely not all growing at the same rate. However, we're seeing some nice development. And on top of that, the other fingerling potatoes that we planted in our small containers, well, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing some of them growing really nicely. And that means that we've saved ourselves the heartache of planting these fingerling potatoes and having some of them not grow up, because we can pick the most vigorous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this second layer to this bag, and you can see there's actually another one coming up right here. So I have to look where is the best spot to add that second layer, and then I'll place these up above like that. So I can add my soil mix around the ones here that are a little bit leggier, a little bit longer. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this out, and I have to do this really gently because I want to show you what the roots look like on a potato that started like this. And it's not going to be really firm. Oh, there we go. So you can see what the roots look like when we've placed this potato in here. Now the potato itself, the seed potato, is hidden, and I don't want to mess with this too much. I don't need to do anything in loosening it up. Oh, there it is. There's the little seed potato right there. And you can see how it's spread out in that container. So we've got good growth, and I'm going to place this right off to the side right here. And I'm going to go ahead and start layering some soil in here. Just like so. Just all around it. And we can fill up around on this side too. And then I'm going to put another potato here, and I think another one right over here. All right, this is the second potato that we're going to be putting in here. And I think this is really cool because this is kind of like if you saw a cross section of a mature plant growing, you'd see something similar where we have the roots coming out to the sides, and then you'd have these tubers forming on the stolons throughout this system. And as this grows taller, you'd see more roots develop if this is an indeterminate variety, and we would see even more growth farther up the stem. So let's go ahead and get this one in. And I'm going to add a little bit of bone meal, langbionite, and mycorrhizal in here to help with the growth and development here. And one of the things is, I think, pretty important to note, I don't have to have the soil all at the exact same level. It's not like I'm going to cover everything up. I just need to have the soil around the plants at the height where they are right now, leaving a couple inches above, and then as they continue to grow, I'll continue to add soil. And you'll also notice that the bag itself is rolled down right now, so we have a good 3 or 4 more inches of soil that we can add as they start to get taller. I've got all of these covered to the layer that they can handle right now. So we've got our double layer in here, and we'll go ahead and finish the rest of the containers the same way, adding the soil as need be, and then we'll follow the process as they grow. It is the beginning of August, August 2nd, and these are our multi-layer potatoes in grow bags. And you can see that they have really started to take off since we added that second layer. And you know, it's been a week and a half since we added that second layer, and they're probably, I would say most of them, about 10 inches tall, really nice and green. So they're getting tall enough where if we don't cover them soon and add some more soil, they'll start to flop over. So what we're going to do today is add fertilizer. We're going to add some bone meal and langbionite and a little bit of mycorrhizal. That's our potato feeding mix. And we're going to go ahead and get the soil added to this. I love the fact that these are growing so nicely still. All right, I've added my fertilizer, and now we're going to top this off with some of our soil mix. Bring it right in here, and I'm adding it dry so that it can spread around. If I had it wet, I think we'd be pushing these potato plants all over the place. Again, we're not trying to induce damage to them. We just want to be able to drop our mix right in here. All right, I'll finish this up and show you what it looks like once we've added all the mix. All right, I've topped all these off nicely. They've been fed, and we still have for a couple of these the ability to roll up another inch or so of the grow bag. This is the only one that's all the way extended already, but as these continue to grow taller, we'll continue this process of increasing the amount of soil inside and feeding. But so far, they're looking great. Only about 4 days after our last addition of soil, and these potatoes have grown so much, I've got to turn up the lip of these bags and add soil the rest of the way up as high as I can. All right, this bag is filled up just as high as I'm going to be able to make it. So the next stop here on top of this will be to track the growth, but then also we'll add a little bit of mulch on top, some hay, in order to keep the potatoes, if any of them, up here toward the surface. But this is what all the rest of these bags are going to look like as we continue our multi-layer potato growth.
Well, we're going to let these grow for the next couple of months, and the next time I see you, it'll be time to harvest.
Well, you can see from that footage that we did have these layered. Now, I don't know what difference that's going to make necessarily, but here are all 6 of these containers ready to be harvested, and I'm going to hop right in. Now, as always for these containers, we have a nice layer of mulch on top to try to protect everything underneath, but I'm going to go ahead and remove that from all of our containers here. Now, I can't wait to get down in here and see exactly what's grown for us. This is a 10-gallon grow bag, and most of the grow bags today are going to be either 7 or 10 gallons. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a flip, and we're going to see from the beginning here what is going to appear once we pop this open. Now, we'll see if this is a good sign. Now, I don't know for quantity, but what I can tell you is depth-wise, this is right at the bottom, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to do that double planting. And I can already see that there are several here right on the side. Now, fingerling potatoes, this is a good size. This is what you would expect to see, I think. This may be a little bit bigger for our fingerling potatoes. And again, these are fingerling potatoes that are grown from last year's harvest. So this is, well, here we go. This is exposing what we can do with these when we save them. So we saved these all winter long, and then we planted them after seeing all of that massive sprouting. I'm just gonna break this wide open here and see what's down underneath here. More of these. These are perfect for roasting. That's exactly what we've got here. We've got some that are going to go right in and get roasted. And remember, these are 100% organic potatoes as well. And so what we have here, if you were to buy it at the store right now, because I just checked, is about $5 or $6 per pound. So whatever we get out of here is going to be a great return. I can already tell that. Yeah, they're just little tiny treasures that we're popping out of the soil here and discovering. That's pretty great. I think this might be the last one. So let's take a look at that first grow bag and see what we came up with. Well, here's what we got from our first grow bag, and you can see it's not a massive pile, but again, we're trying to answer that question of what happens when you plant really old seed potatoes. And I would say they weren't necessarily vigorous growers, but we still got a nice harvest. This grow bag is a 7-gallon grow bag, so it's a little bit smaller. And I'll have a link to all of these grow bags in the description. If you've never tried growing in a grow bag, it's something that we've definitely found some value in. So let's see how this one comes out. Yeah, there we go. Uncovering some in here, just popping out like this. That's one of the things too about this. This was a late planting. There we go. A much later planting than our other potato varieties, because again, we had all these other ones planted because we wanted to be able to harvest potatoes throughout the growing season and not just all at one time. So we're harvesting this, a good 3 weeks after our last potato harvest, somewhere in that neighborhood. So these are definitely fingerling potatoes that are typically early season. These are late season fingerling potatoes simply because of when we planted them. Let's take a look at the root system here on this fingerling potato plant. There's not a ton of root to it, which again might be one of the things we'd expect from a fingerling potato that was so old when we planted it. Now, we did a video where we talked about getting to know your seed potatoes, and you should check that video out because one of the things we talked about in that video is making sure that you're planting the best and most vigorous. And I would say that this is showing us that there is definitely something to making sure you have high quality seed potatoes going into the growing season. Well, most of these seed potatoes in this container grew up toward the top, I would say. So we didn't get nearly as much depth as that first container, but that being said, we still got a nice little harvest. If we keep this up, we're gonna have a really nice mountain of these little fingerlings. I'm enjoying this. And I'll also say that these have been dead for a couple of weeks. So this is definitely the time to get in here, break these apart, and see if there's anything growing. All right, there we go. All right, for this one, hey, we got our first deformed, this is like a spaceship, our first deformed fingerling. Not as many in this one, it looks like. There we go. They were just over here hiding in the corner. Yeah, these look great. These look absolutely fantastic. Take a look at that. Again, perfect roasting size for these. We're gonna have some really nice meals out of this, I can tell. Well, there we go. This bag definitely had the fewest so far. You can see them right here, but still a nice little turnout. Again, instead of throwing out our old fingerling potatoes, we got them to make more. Growing in these grow bags though is super simple, low maintenance. This is something that very easy to do. And so there was not a ton of efforting that had to go into this. And I'm seeing some fingerling potatoes already popping off to the side for this one. Well, let's get down in here because I can see already that some of these look to be a little bit bigger than the other grow bags so far. That is a really nice sized potato. Now, I'm not sure what that means for what else is in here, but let's go ahead and open this up. Oh yeah, there we go. Take a look at this. These are actually closer to the size we got from last year's fingerling potato harvest. There we go. That's a nice start to this grow bag. All right, let's go. I think I see another one. Yeah, right there. Oh, these are wonderful. These are absolutely wonderful. I think these are definitely making my point that if you have them, no need to throw out those extra fingerlings. Now that does not look like a fingerling potato to me. That looks more like a Yukon Gold. I don't think we planted any Yukon Golds in here, at least not on purpose. Yeah, this is absolutely a lovely container filled with some nice fingerlings here. I'd love to know your favorite fingerling potato recipe, because I am confident many of you have tried these out, even if you haven't grown them before, and you probably have a really nice way to prepare them. So is it worth it not throwing out our fingerlings? I would say so far, 100%. Again, any harvest we get is a bonus harvest from this planting. Oh, look at that. I broke this wide open right here in the middle, and there they are, just hanging out there. It's like a vein, a gold vein of fingerling potatoes right in the middle there. Let's see what else we've got. There we go. Yeah, these are wonderful looking. I don't mind these being misshapen one bit. The skin on these are perfect. There's not a bit of potato scab in there, so we just rinse them off and cook them up. We don't have to peel these one bit. You see how easy it is to harvest when you grow in grow bags? I mean, there's no heavy digging. It's just separating it out here, seeing what is right underneath the surface. And this is one of the big benefits for growing in a bag like this. So easy to harvest, and you still get that experience of digging around. It's just, you can do it with your hands. You don't need any kind of shovel or anything like that. All right, let's see if there's anything over in this little corner. Oh, there they are. Yeah, it's definitely, oh, it's rolling away from us right there. Let's take a look. These are little tiny ones, little tiny tasty ones. Sometimes you got to remember, as you're sitting there waiting for the season to pass and for your harvest to come, just how enjoyable these harvests are. Now, this container still has some green left on it, but it was planted at the same time. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull this out. Now, there are a couple of things I want you to remember. We planted these for a couple of reasons. One, we had extra grow bags and that allowed us some extra space. And two, we really wanted to see how well these would perform, you know, being that old. And I think we're getting that answer today. You know, I was looking back at some of our earlier videos, our potato harvests in particular, and there was a term I was saying repeatedly, and that was that I was well pleased. And here I am again. I'm just very well pleased. Look at this, right off the side of that grow bag. That is a wonderful handful. And I actually think there are even more right down here. Again, coming in right on the side. There we go. There's another nice one. Yeah, these are definitely bigger. Yeah, some really nice ones right in here. Right here. Oh, there's some more attached. Yeah, there's a whole bunch on this one. So a couple of these were definitely more, yeah, this one in particular was much more vigorous in terms of growth. Look at all of this attached to the same one, and there's more farther down. That is absolutely fantastic. And take a look at the roots that were formed off of this one as well. They're much bigger than those roots I showed you earlier. Well, it definitely looks like this one, which held on longer than all the others. Yeah, there's more. Oh, look at that. This one held on longer than the others, and it's producing far more. This container is the best producer. I mean, by far, this is the best producer for these fingerlings. Wow, that is a gigantic pile of potatoes in here, and they're not done yet. Oh my. Yes, multiple bigger ones in here as well. Proof that you should plant right there. Look at it. Proof that you should plant, and don't throw out those old potatoes. Even if it looks like they're too old, if you have space, put them in the ground. Well, first let's take a look at them in their respective grow bags. And I gotta say, this was the smallest one right here, but still a nice amount. We got some great size out of these potatoes for sure. This one produced so many of these smaller ones, really looking nice. And then we get down to our last bag, and it's a mountain of potatoes. Well, I gathered up all of those potatoes and put them into one nice size bowl, and then I weighed them, and we ended up with just over 7 pounds of fingerling potatoes from our old fingerlings that were, again, so old we had no idea what to expect. And I'm going to tell you this: if you have old potatoes, don't throw them out. As long as you have a little bit of space somewhere. All we did was to take some soil that had been previously used, add some fertilizer, and put in our old fingerlings. And then for the next 3 months, we just let them sit. And they paid us back big time. This has got to be at least, what, $35 worth of potatoes here? Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.